Okay, so for this video I'm going to show you how to field strip and clean a GLOCK pistol. So right here we have my GLOCK 19. You basically want to make sure that the gun is clear and empty before you do anything, of course. You know, physically inspect the chamber. The first thing we're going to need to do is disassemble. So for that you have to drop the hammer. Some people complain about dry firing. I don't think it's a big deal, but go ahead and drop the hammer. You just pull the trigger and it makes a click. Okay. You want to slowly pull down on these takedown catches as you pull back slightly on the slide, let it go, and it pretty much falls right apart. You then drop the recoil spring, just pop it out, and then drop out the barrel. And then that's pretty much how you field strip a GLOCK. So to start the cleaning though, I'm going to need a few basic tools. The first thing you're going to need is a 9mm barrel brush, and then a barrel brush rod, a nylon brush, a patch, I don't know what you want to call this, a patch pusher, some CLP, some swabs, and then depending on how dirty it gets, maybe some Q-tips, which I have right there. So typically the first thing that I do when I start cleaning is I break it down. I give it a quick look over. Everything looks like it's okay. For the most part. I mean, doesn't appear to be any major fouling or anything like that. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll take a little bit of CLP and I'll put it on my nylon brush here. See if you can see that. A little bit too much there. And then I'll take a look at the slide, and then let me push the barrel back, there we go. And I'll start just pretty much brushing it out a little bit. I try to get all the rails, the inside of the slide where the barrel travels, the whole chamber breech area where the firing pin is. Yeah, I don't have to brush too hard, just lightly, just enough to kind of like free up the dirt. Scrub it around. This gun's only had about 200 rounds fired through it. Now, you probably really don't need to do a cleaning every 200 rounds. You'd probably be pretty safe every 300 to 500. But I'm pretty anal, so I go ahead and actually, if I only fire like 100 rounds, unless I'm going to be shooting that same week again, I go ahead and I go ahead and clean through it again. So, you know, I'm just cleaning inside where the barrel travels a little bit here, and then where the recoil assembly splits up at. And then basically the inside here, you know, it's a little bit dark. Let me go ahead and turn the light on real fast. Let me turn on a better light. Oh, there we go. So that added some better light. So I pretty much kind of like brush it down, and then until I'm pretty much happy with it. I kind of clear it out a little bit. You know, all up in here where the firing pin lug is, inside the chamber and where the extractor is. Just kind of brush it all out. You really kind of want to like loosen up all the carbon and powder buildup and stuff. You can see this gun's pretty new. I don't know if you can see. You can still see the copper pasty stuff up in there. But yeah, so you just kind of keep rubbing it down, you know, until you're satisfied that it's clean. I'll probably stop there. Okay. And then I'll set it aside. And then I'll pick up the barrel and I'll start working on the barrel. And the first thing I do is I look at the barrel and see how dirty it is. If you can kind of see in there, it looks okay. But I'll brush out where the feed ramp is and the chamber, just like this edge here. I'll brush down the entire, like, outside of the barrel. This is I think it's called, I don't know, the barrel lug. But I'll brush up in there, the entire face, outside of the barrel. I pretty much kind of give it like a good scrub down, basically, to kind of loosen up all the anything that may have accumulated. And then I'll let that sit too, and I'll put down my brush. And so let me put together my little barrel brush here. And then again, I put a little bit of CLP on this guy. There you go. And I go ahead and I push it back and forth from breech to barrel end, and I pull it back about 10 times. 10. So that's about 10 times, and that pretty much kind of frees up anything that I need to free up. We'll go ahead and we'll unscrew the barrel brush, and I'll replace it with the swab pusher. I'll grab one of my swabs from the back. And I pretty much only push these from breech end to the end of the barrel. And I kind of push it through, fold it up, push that one through. You can see it's kind of dirty, so I'll go ahead and I'll fold it up in half again using the clean side. I'll push that through. You can see it's starting to clean up a little bit. So I'll run it through the opposite side. And I basically keep pushing these swabs through. And go grab another one. Over and over again until they come out clean, and I'm pretty happy with them. So you can see there's pretty much like nothing, near nothing on that one. So I'll probably run it through one more time and see what I get out of it. Okay, so it looks pretty clean. Let's see, yep. Then I'll go ahead and I'll set that aside. I'll pick up the frame. I'll kind of like look into the frame, looking for any issues, make sure everything appears to be working properly, everything looks good. It's just a little dirty. So I'll go ahead and I'll take my nylon brush I was using on the slide, and I'll go ahead and I'll scrub down the contact point. So this is where the frame rails are, and then this is the connector, or not the connector, sorry, the trigger with trigger bar. Just like it's a little bit fouled from gunpowder and stuff like that, so I'll go ahead and I'll give it just like a quick brush over, nothing crazy. Remember, you don't want to use a whole lot of oil, you just want to keep things pretty simple. That's the ejector. You just kind of want to scrub in here, and you just kind of like breaking up all the carbon, and I scrub inside the mag well, yeah. Yep. If there's any fouling like on the outside from shooting, I'll go ahead and I'll scrub the plastic parts or the polymer pieces out, you know. Doesn't take much. Just, again, this is only like a field cleaning basically. This isn't any detail strip. I probably detail strip my Glocks once or twice a year, depending on how dirty they get and how much they get shot. But I just kind of brush everything down and get it as clean as I possibly can without having to take things apart. Okay, so once that's done, I'll let that sit, and our slide's been sitting a few minutes, so we'll go ahead and we'll go back to that. I typically grab a clean rag, something like this, then I pick up the slide and I start wiping off all the fouling that was broken up by the brushing from earlier. Pretty much wipe it all down. Inside and out if you want to, inside the chamber, kind of clear everything out. Everything looks kind of good. I mean, this gun was brand new pretty much, so there's a lot of copper still, copper, I don't know, anti-seize stuff in there that you may want to use. But for the most part, it was pretty clean. So I'll go ahead and just keep working at it. And you kind of keep polishing that out and until you're happy that it's nice and dry. You can see there's still like a lot of lube like right there at that end. So I'll really want to get the rag in there and really dry that out. Go ahead and you push on the firing pin safety and drop the firing pin down. Go ahead and just give that a wipe. Go ahead and reset it. Okay, so then I'll pretty much I'll just keep going through that, like I said, until it's dry and I'm pretty happy with it. Then I'll switch back to the barrel, which we cleaned earlier, and the inside's pretty clean now. So now we just kind of wipe it off with the rag. Make sure you use your finger and get in there and clean the edge of the barrel where the breech is. Sorry, not the breech, but the muzzle end. Just kind of wipe it down, wipe off everything that we scrubbed. Make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, and then I'll go to the frame, and again, just pretty much you're just kind of trying to clear up all the fouled CLP that I put on there to break up all of the gunpowder and carbon that built up from the range session. I typically take the rag and I stuff it up inside the mag well, and then pull it out the top, just kind of like let it rub through there. You just kind of want to put it around your hands and get your fingers in there and just kind of try and get as much of the lubricant out of there as possible. Because these guns don't need a whole lot of real lubrication to operate, and you'll see when I go through oiling it when I put it back together that you really don't need to do all that much to it. Okay, so when you're also drying up all the slide with your rag, if you wanted to go ahead and use a Q-tip, this is the time I do it. I'd go ahead and I'd take one and I'd kind of just rub it down on the inside of these rails here, the rails that contact the frame, just all the hard to reach places, I guess, that you couldn't get to, like with the rag. I would just kind of wipe them down, underneath the extractor, just inside here, maybe inside where the recoil spring sits. Stuff. You just kind of want to look into the firing pin channel. It's hard to see on the video, but you just want to make sure that there's really not a whole lot of lubrication stuff up in there, no solvent or anything like that. So if there is, you may want to disassemble the slide and get into that a little bit more, but we'll go ahead and clean the breech face a little bit. Okay. Well, you also have the Q-tip out if you wanted to get into the hard to reach places here, like in the frame, that you couldn't also get to with a rag, like maybe down in there. You just don't want to leave any, I guess, like excess oil, or you want to leave as little excess oil as possible. So, like all of those, those really hard to reach places, I'll kind of get in there with a Q-tip and kind of dry them out as much as possible. Recoil springs generally don't get that dirty, and you also just replace the whole encapsulated spring unit, so I really don't pay too much attention to them. If I think there's a little bit of powder on them, I'll take my little nylon brush, and I'll go ahead and put them down, and I'll go ahead and I'll scrub it out a little bit with whatever CLP is left on here, and just rotate it, and you just kind of want to try and get, I guess, as much debris, if there is anything at all, on there as possible. I'll take the end and maybe scrub that down a little bit, and then take your rag and just you want to just wipe the whole thing off. Okay, so this is our Glock 19 again, and we're all clean. We're ready to get lubed up and reassembled. So usually the first thing that I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll grab a Q-tip. I'll take my bottle of CLP and I'll go ahead and dip the end of it in there. You don't want to get it too frothy, but you do want to get a fair amount on there. And I'll pick up the slide, and then you'll see these rails right here. This is where the frame contacts the slide. I'll go ahead and I'll take my Q-tip and I'll go ahead and I'll just run it straight down there. Down this side and then back through there. Just make sure everything looks like it's decently lubricated. I'll then take a fresh clean swab, and I'll put it on the top of my CLP bottle and I'll flip it. basically waiting for it to soak through, so maybe I'll do it a couple times. Once that's done, I'll take that and I'll go ahead and I'll set it on top of my barrel. I'll use my pusher and I'll just run a clean wet swab straight through the barrel just to lube things up. And then I'll take what's left of the barrel and I'll go ahead and I'll lube the outside of the barrel. Sorry, what's left of the CLP on the swab, not the barrel, but I'll lube the outside of it, especially where it ducks under the slide, like this little notch right here. I definitely want to lube that up quite a bit. And then I want to flip it over and get underneath there, and I may use my little tool to get in there and lube that up a little bit. Some people will go ahead and lube the whole thing. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you don't want it to be excess, like overly wet, but just, you know, a nice gel-like coating over it just to prevent, you know, unnecessary wear, I should say. Looks like I got a fair amount on here, but so it's a little wetter than I would like it, but I mean, I think you guys kind of get the idea. So then I'll start reassembly. You just kind of slide the barrel in, locks in place. Go ahead and put the recoil spring on. You just got to kind of push it and set it on the lug there. There it goes, where it sits. And then go ahead and I'll grab my frame. Go ahead and pull the slide home. Let it go. Function check it, making sure everything works. You can hear that. That's the firing pin moving in the firing pin channel. You always want to hear that, just to make sure that there's no like excess gunk and stuff in there. So you want to give it a good shake and make sure you can hear the firing pin channel. But I'll pretty much rub it, or just recycle the slide a few times, just to make sure everything's okay. You can also check the condition of your recoil spring. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me see if I can move the camera a little bit. There we go. So if you want to check if you need a new recoil spring, you go ahead and you pull the trigger home, you pull the slide back, and then you kind of like let it go slowly, and it needs to kind of be able to go back into battery all by itself. And we're good. You can give it a shake if you want. That's pretty much how you field strip and clean a Glock pistol. Thanks for watching.